Hello and welcome back to the Q&A. So first of all, well, I don't really have a great deal of questions saved up in my Word doc of questions, so if you have anything you want to ask, or just anything really in general, be sure to leave it down in the comments for this video and I will get to it in a future episode. Anyway, so let's get to the questions that I do have, and the first one comes from Alice Storm, who said, I have a question for your next Q&A about Warlords and how it might lead into the next expansion. Personally, I'm hoping for a South Sea / Dark Below expansion, so I'm probably a bit biased here. But there are a few lines in one of the Warcraft short stories that says, the Dark Portal, left unguarded, was reclaimed by the Burning Legion, horrors rose from the sea, and found no champions left to stop them. They said that, I believe the last patch of Warlords could be the Burning Legion trying to hijack the Warlords' Dark Portal and invade our Azeroth. And while there are none of us are really left on Azeroth, that's when N'Zoth, Ashara, and friends all try to rise up and, start causing a bit of a ruckus. Alright, so I actually think that's a really solid theory. There is a lot of precedence for that in the lore, and that it's sitting there in a short story on the official website. And it's an idea that I think has definitely been talked about a lot inside Blizzard, and there are definitely one or two times where stuff like that's been hinted at. It absolutely makes sense. Back when all the Dark Below stuff was going on, there was so much evidence to support it, at least lore evidence to support its possibility. So yeah, it was a possibility then, it's still a possibility now, and this whole idea of the Dark Portal left unguarded was reclaimed by the Burning Legion, well, that is absolutely something that could happen when you think about the story of Warlords, so I think that would be really cool. In terms of do I want it to be that expansion? I would prefer a Burning Legion expansion probably, just from a lore standpoint, and also because we would, again, get to explore some more alien worlds. So that's why I'd personally vote for a kind of Rise of the Legion styled expansion. But in general though, I think they could definitely do quite a lot with the South Seas one. First of all, okay, they could show us the stuff that I don't really care about, which is the Naga and all their cities and things like that. I just didn't particularly like Vashj'ir. They definitely could throw a lot of that at us, but more importantly, they could show us places like Undermine, the Zandalari place, and just all the various other islands. So that could be kind of cool, though I'd be a little bit worried that it would suffer from the Cataclysm problem of all of the zones of the South Seas expansion not being in one continent, and just being kind of scattered around the place. Because if you just think from a logistical perspective, you'd essentially, it would just be like flight point from zone to zone, because obviously we wouldn't be able to fly, or at least I'd imagine, so it would just be flight point from zone to zone, and I just feel like there could be a weird disconnect with all that going on. Not particularly sure. Still though, there's cool lore there, and I'm sure they could make a great expansion out of the South Seas. Okay, so next we have a question from Magtheridon Apocalypse. Now this is actually a really old question, but it's relevant with some of the Warlord stuff that came out. And he said that with new Tauren models, Blizzard should introduce a two-handed totem mace from Warcraft 3. This weapon is already in the data files, and NPCs fight with them. I think that absolutely makes sense, actually. Yes, if these things are already in the data for the game, then sure, allow players to use them. Also, the reason I just picked up this question again is because one or two of the weapons in Warlords of Draenor are essentially big, tree trunks and sticks and things that would actually look pretty well in a Tauren, so I just thought it was worth highlighting that. And the second part of his question was based on essentially doing a Tauren racial thing with one of those totem weapons as a reward. In general, I don't think the idea of a racial questline is... sure, it could be fun, but I would prefer they do class ones over race ones, and in general, because a race quest isn't going to affect every single player, and the same issue even goes for class quests, they generally prefer to do stuff that all players can experience. So yeah, I think it would really be better just to put the time into class quests rather than race ones. Still though, it's an interesting idea, and I think that hopefully your need, at least for one of these maces, could be fulfilled by some of the tree-styled weapons in Warlords. Okay, so next we have a question from Russell Jimmies, who says, what add-ons do you use to change hotbars and health bars? And that's actually a really easy one to answer. My hotbars are Bartender, and then my health, bars and unit frames and things, are Shadowed unit frames. Overall, they're pretty much two very good mods, or add-ons even, and yeah, just go to Curse and download them, and you should be okay from there. Okay, so we have another question. It's from Aurora Gaming, who said, who do you think the next legendary quest giver will be? Oddly enough, the more I think about it, the more I think that Gul'dan could be an excellent option. We have absolutely no idea how Gul'dan's story is going to play out in Warlords, and by the looks of things that have been data mined, Gul'dan actually seems to be playing a very important role in the story. I was pretty sure that Gul'dan was trying to summon in the Burning Legion, and that was his important part of the story, so I'm not particularly sure if he'd be the guy that we work with for that. Yeah, not particularly sure about that. Now, as for the legendary quest giver, I think Medivh would be a really good candidate there. Because it's going back to the whole, Orc, Demon Blood sort of stuff that he had a role in starting. Well, maybe he didn't start the Demon Blood, but he started the invasion of Azeroth, the Dark Portal, creating the Dark Portal, all those various things. I think Medivh could be a really interesting character to do that. And they could even send him there with his personal motivation being like to tie up loose ends or something like that. So it could be Medivh, and it definitely needs to be a character though that could be accessed by both the Alliance and the Horde, which really does limit you down, especially like once the likes of Rathian are gone. So, yeah, I'm just going to say Medivh could be really interesting in that role and move on because I'm not particularly sure who else could be there. Though maybe the Alliance and Horde could have their own... they could have their own legendary quest line, but that would be too much work, and even if they just mirrored the quests, then it would just be an NPC swap with maybe, I don't know, Yril giving the quest for the Alliance and some Frostwolf hero giving it for the Horde, but I don't really think that would work too well. Yeah, Medivh. I think Medivh's probably the man for the job. I just think it would be cool. We need to see Medivh more. He's a really interesting character. And also with Khadgar coming back with the Alliance, you could see Khadgar and Medivh reuniting and various things like that. It could be really cool. Okay, so next we have a question from Magtheridon Apocalypse. And he said, do you think the Dark Portal will open towards the old Draenor after Warlords of Draenor? I see a bit of a problem. One, if it stays open, then the two dimensions will mix so that there are two Thralls in our timeline. And the second problem is that if we close it, then we wouldn't be able to revisit the 90 to 100 content anymore, game-wise. Well, first of all, we are always going to be able to visit anything, as much as we want, really, because Blizzard can just say, hey, talk to an NPC, and choose between the two. That's probably what would happen. You meet Chromie or some bronze dragon or something at the Dark Portal, talk to them and say, hey, I want to go to past Draenor, or I want to go to Outland. Just like what they do with Theramore. They could do that. In terms of, though, just, like, how do we differentiate the two? I don't think they've really given a solid option. It's actually something they recently said that they're kind of looking into doing. I suppose it would make sense that if you are under level 90, or maybe 88, whatever the level is for entering Draenor, if you're under that, then the Dark Portal will take you to Outland, and you just won't be able to get to Draenor. But if you're above level 90 or are level 90, then the Dark Portal will take you to Draenor, and Outlands will be shifted into the Caverns of Time, or maybe just an NPC that's standing beside the Dark Portal. That's probably the way to do it. Yeah, there's no easy way though when you are using the same portal to take you to two separate places. There needs to be some sort of gamey way to get around that. That's probably how it'll happen. Alright, so next we have a question from McFickle3, who said, what is the difference between Mage Fire spells and Shaman Fire spells? Well, a Shaman Fire spell is basically the Shaman tapping into the fire elementals of the surrounding area and saying, hey, will you guys let me use your firepower? And the elementals say yes, that's the way it should be. And of course sometimes you get maybe the Dark Shaman who enslave the elements to do all those bad things. But that's basically what a Shaman does. It uses the earth elementals and earth just kind of energy, whatever, around the place. Now what a mage does, from what I believe, is they use basically energy to make fire, kind of, and then throw the fire. In comparison to the shamans actually using the kind of spirit of fire and what fire actually is. Mages are just like, hey, energy, fire, boom. That's what I think the lore reason is. I don't actually have a lot of time to go and research it now because I've got to make this video really quickly because the day that this goes up I'll be away off looking at houses, so yeah, fun stuff. Anyway, I think that's the main difference there. Of course, it is a game, and I'm guessing a lot of these things are just, it's not really stuff they thought about a long time ago. But I think that's the reason. And then Magtheridon Apocalypse also asked a question saying, do you think they could use the Blizzard store to update the old world? And his example was that they could make, say, an Ashenvale themed pet or mount, and then use the profits from that to hire some people to remake Ashran or update it or something like that. So first of all, I think that I'd hate that, honestly, because it would be locking content away to people who pay a thing, or it'd just be this really bizarre way of kind of extorting money from the player base when honestly Blizzard should fund that themselves out of their own pocket. So that's the thing. And then also the idea of hiring a separate dev team or something like that. That's just not how the industry works. You can't just hire people like that and expect to maintain quality. Like the World of Warcraft development team is actually, it's I think 180 people, maybe a little bit smaller. It's not one of these giant, like, 300, 500, 600 people teams that, say, I know, Assassin's Creed are involved with. There's a reason why Assassin's Creed has got so much random bullshit and systems, and it just overall feels very unpolished. It's because there's, like, 600+ people have their hands in that game, which is a pity, because, you know, great way to just train wreck a franchise. But anyway, yeah, essentially, I hope that never happens. I hope Blizzard never decide to try to make money like that, because I just think that would be absolutely terrible. So, yeah, no, Blizzard, don't do that. Okay, so next we have a question from Ewad Doubt, I think, who said, what do you think will be there in the 6.x patches? A very good question. So I think that 6.0, as we know, is just killing off the Blade or High Maul, even the Ogre people. It's that, and then killing off Blackhand and destroying the Iron Horde, like manufacturing and that kind of thing. Then I think 6.1 will not be a raid tier, it'll be a little bit like patch 5.1, so you'll have some story there. I'm not too sure what that story will be, but that story I think will likely be leading up to us dealing with the expansion's end villain. And then I think the patch 6.2, or not end villain, sorry, the Iron Horde end villain. I think patch 6.2 will be something to do with just fighting off the main Gromash, as an example, just really just killing the Iron Horde. Then I think 6.3 could be introducing some plot points or things like that that will lead us on to, say, Aurelia and Terulion returning in patch 6.4, or perhaps Aurelia and Terulion return in patch 6.3, tell us shit's going to go down in 6.4, so we do some stuff with them to get prepared, and then in 6.4 the Burning Legion comes, and just start like trying to rip the shreds, whatever, you know, kill us, that kind of thing. Sorry if I'm talking shitly, by the way, it's like 1 AM and I've been like no sleep. Anyway, yeah, I think that's what would happen. Then that could move into either a full-on Burning Legion expansion, or it could lead into, say, the South Seas expansion, as we talked about earlier. I'd say maybe you could do South Seas and then a Burning Legion expansion if you're able to just kind of kill off the Expeditionary Legion force. So various things like that could work. There's a lot that they can do, and they have told us that there is more going on behind the scenes that we don't currently know about the story of Warlords. So yeah, lots of interesting stuff to find out in the future. Anyway, that's going to be it from me. Now, I don't have any questions left, actually. I went through the entire bank of questions there. So if you do have one, if it's Warlords of Draenor lore, maybe some systems changes, perhaps not specific class things, because, you know, it doesn't really apply to that many people. But yeah, just be sure to leave them. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.